Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Always appreciate you joining me and spending some of your day with me. Here's what we're going to cover today. A bill that would require voter ID in elections as early as this November had only one House Democrat to vote in favor of voter ID and proof of citizenship in U.S. elections. One Democrat voted in favor of this. It tells you a lot about their party, doesn't it? We have an update on the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. Authorities say a black glove was found in the area, which could lead to DNA identification of the kidnapper. Also, the transgender high school dropout who gunned down his mother and stepbrother before killing 6 others at a British Columbia high school was seen for the first time in resurfaced photos posted by his family, including one eerie snap showing the smiling teen holding a rifle. And former President Joe Biden will be stopping in Columbia, South Carolina later this month for a fundraiser to mark the 6th anniversary of the South Carolina victory that propelled him to the White House. And we have regretted every minute of that, haven't we? It's a busy one. Let's jump right in here.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Let's talk about what happened in Washington, because this is going to be one of those issues that I think potentially defines the midterms. The House of Representatives has passed what they call the Save America Act. It cleared on a razor-thin vote, 218 to 213. And let me just say real quickly, sort of a sideline here. These types of votes really show just how important this year's elections are. I mean, a 5-vote margin. We have no room for error. That's why we have to keep the seats we have, and we need to build on those to improve this margin. We're barely getting by here, folks. Now, here's what stands out about this vote yesterday. Every Democrat but one voted against it. The lone exception, Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar. Now, the bill is led by Texas Republican Chip Roy. It's aimed squarely at election integrity. Now, before everybody runs to their corners, let's slow down just a bit, unpack what's actually in this thing, okay? At its core, the Save America Act would require proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. It would require photo ID to cast a ballot in federal races. It would push states to clean up voter rolls and verify citizenship status. And it would create more information sharing between state election officials and federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, if someone who is not a citizen is found registered to vote. That should be a crime. That should be another reason to hunt them down and deport them. Now, the politics, and that's where it gets a little heated. Republicans argue this is about restoring confidence in elections. They point to the border crisis over the last 4 years, millions of migrants entering the country, and say that voters deserve assurance that only citizens are participating in federal elections. Now, I would hope that states will take the lead and make this in local elections too. Because if you're not a U.S. citizen, you shouldn't be voting for anything, period. End of sentence. You shouldn't be voting for your U.S. House and U.S. Senate. You should not be voting for your city council. You should not be voting for your school board or dog catcher. If you're not a citizen, you don't vote. It should be just that simple. You agree? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. Now, Florida Congressman Mike Herodopoulos said rebuilding trust starts with making sure only eligible citizens vote. I agree with him. Oklahoma Congressman Kevin Hearn said it's about securing the ballot box, not suppressing voters. You know, there's a video of Joe Biden voting, and I think it was in the last presidential election. I'm not sure if it really has a date on it, but it shows Biden stepping up at his polling place to get his ballot, and you see him pull his wallet out and pull his photo ID out to show to the clerk. It is not unreasonable to ask anyone to show a photo ID to do one of the most sacred things we do as American citizens, vote. Now, Texas Congressman August Pfluger framed it as delivering on a mandate that voters sent Republicans to Washington to tighten things up, not to make excuses. That's one side of the debate. On the other side, Democrats are calling this voter suppression, of course. They love to talk about voter suppression. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has been very vocal in his opposition. House Minority Whip Catherine Clark made an emotional argument on the floor, saying that the documentation requirements could disproportionately affect married women whose last names don't match their birth certificates. Isn't there ways to get to prove your citizenship or prove who you are? I mean, is that a problem? You got a marriage certificate, right? A marriage license. Anyway, Democrats say non-citizen voting in federal elections is already illegal and extremely rare. Well, if it's no big deal, why are you objecting to just adding an extra step here? Something that's should be very common sense, and show us your ID. They argue that Democrats that is, that adding more federal mandates could create bureaucratic confusion and barriers for seniors, minorities, low-income Americans, and yes, married women navigating paperwork discrepancies. So here we are, again, security versus access. Now, let me just kind of step back a minute here. Confidence in elections matters. It matters whether your candidate wins or loses. If half the country questions the process, that's not healthy for a constitutional republic. You agree? At the same time, voting is a fundamental right for citizens. Any policy that changes access to the ballot, I agree, deserves some scrutiny. But does it really change access? Again, if you're a U.S. citizen, then it's simple. Who really doesn't have photo IDs? Don't a majority of people have them anyway? And when they need it for social services, people don't mind whipping their ID out, do they? Now, here's the political reality. This bill passed the House, as I mentioned a minute ago, by 5 votes, but the Senate's another story. Under current rules, you need 60 votes to overcome a filibuster. That means several Democrats would have to cross party lines. Right now, I got to tell you, I wouldn't bet on it. It's very unlikely, sadly. Even Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski has expressed caution about how voter ID legislation is framed, arguing that trust is built carefully, not through partisan escalation. What is partisan escalation by just requiring a photo ID? So the Save America Act now moves into what you might call Senate purgatory. But don't think for a second that this vote was symbolic. This is campaign season positioning. Republicans are making border security and election integrity central themes heading into the midterms. Democrats are emphasizing voting access and civil rights protections. Both parties believe this issue energizes their base. And that's the important thing. That's why, even if it doesn't pass the Senate, we have Democrats on record as opposing an issue that a majority of Americans believe should be implemented. A majority of Americans, 70+%, based on some recent polls, agree that we should be requiring photo IDs to vote. So if you're listening today and you want thinking about this bigger context, public trust in institutions has eroded across the board. You agree? Media, Congress, federal agencies, elections are the foundation of the whole system. And if voters believe the rules are clear, consistent, and enforced, you have confidence that rises. If they believe the rules are confusing or selectively applied, that's how you get distrust growing. So what's the solution? Is stricter verification? Is it simplifying documentation processes? Is it better state-level enforcement, or is it a mix of all of these? I would say it's probably a mix of all of it. Reasonable Americans can disagree on policy details, but we should all agree on this. Citizens should vote. Non-citizens should not. And the system should be transparent enough that both sides accept the results. It should be just that simple. You agree? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Joey Hudson here. You tried keto, paleo, Weight Watchers, intermittent fasting. You lose weight, then it comes right back. You blame yourself, your willpower, your discipline. But here's the truth. It was never about willpower. There's one thing that determines whether your body burns fat or stores it. And if you don't fix that first, every diet will fail. At PhD Weight Loss, they identify that one thing and they build a plan that works with your body, not against it. And if you call now, you're going to get 2 weeks free in the program, and they'll pay for your food so you can finally see real answers without more trial and error. If you've done the yo-yo dieting and want clarity, call PhD Weight Loss now and mention Joey Hudson. No more guessing, just answers. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. Say Joey Hudson. That's 864-644-1900. Also find them online at myphdweightloss.com. That's myphdweightloss.com. Do it once and for all. Lose the weight the right way by calling PhD Weight Loss today. What a horrible story out of British Columbia. The transgender high school dropout who gunned down his mother and stepbrother before taking his revenge on 6 others, killing 6 others at this high school. He was seen for the first time in resurfaced photos posted by his family, including one eerie snapshot showing this smiling teen holding a rifle. Jesse Van Rootselaar, I guess I'm pronouncing that right, Rootselaar. The 18-year-old former student, as I said, dropout, who went on a rampage at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, was spotted straight-faced in several pictures posted by his grandmother on Facebook for his 14th birthday. She wrote, "Happy 14th birthday to our grandson, Jesse. Love you always." Now, this was October 2021. Now, another chilling photo showed Van Rootselaar showing off a rifle and bearing a wide smile while sitting on the couch with another young child. Van Rootselaar launched the horrifying attack at a private residence. This is a remote community, we're told, before continuing the carnage, the attack at the high school, where authorities said he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I don't get this. We've seen this happen with transgenders, just like this guy, a number of times now. Royal Canadian Mounted Police Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald said that this young guy was born a biological male who approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female. Again, just one of those obviously very troubled young men who was confused and I guess didn't get help. I don't know. He was known to authorities as police had visited the family home several times over the years over concerns about his mental health. Does this sound familiar? It's kind of like deja vu. The guy was troubled. Look, any young man who thinks he is a female, you have to, it's a given that he's troubled. It's a given that he's mentally ill. Now, why families don't insist on trying to get them help, I don't know. I'll never understand that. But we've seen this movie before, haven't we? And we've seen the same ending of the movie. The young man is confused. He's tormented. He's pretending to be a woman. And he kills people. In some cases, his own family. In too many cases, other people. Just because they happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And, as I just mentioned, they've had troubled past. They've already, the police are well aware of who they are. Firearms had also been seized from the home, we're told, but the lawful owner, who Dwayne McDonald, the deputy commissioner, did not name, successfully petitioned to have them returned. We've seen that story before too, haven't we? A long gun and a modified handgun were recovered at the school, though it is unclear, according to authorities, if those weapons were the ones that had previously been confiscated. We don't know that yet. So we can't jump to conclusions by saying, well, had those guns not been returned, he wouldn't have had access to them. Don't know if it's the same guns, but they were guns. They were deadly. And there's some poor families out there today grieving the loss of their loved one because some sick young man didn't get help. He slipped through the cracks. An initial alert issued about an active shooter at the school Tuesday afternoon described the shooter as a female in a dress. 6 people were discovered dead inside the school. 6 people. And the bodies of his mother, who was identified by CTV News as 39-year-old Jennifer Strang, and his stepbrother, who's 11 years old, found dead at a private residence. Wow. 39-year-old mother, 11-year-old stepbrother, and 6 others in this school. Roughly 25 others were wounded during the shooting, with, as you can imagine, terrified students and teachers recalling how they barricaded themselves in classrooms for over 2 hours before being escorted out of the school. Again, been there, done that. We've seen this. How do we stop it? How do we keep these troubled young men from slipping through the cracks? And how do authorities intervene? How do families intervene to stop this from happening again? Because I can tell you right now, as you and I are talking, there's another troubled young man out there who probably authorities and family have tiptoed around his feelings and allowed him to continue his troubled lifestyle rather than getting him help. Now, look, I'm probably oversimplifying it. A lot of these families, and we all know how family dynamics are. They're just afraid of alienating their child, afraid that if they alienate him, he'll never come back. Maybe he won't be part of their lives. But there has to be a way to identify these young men before they become a problem like this. I mean, don't you think that parents have the ability to recognize, okay, we've had multiple shootings now of men who are trans, who have dropped out of school, who have had trouble with law enforcement, and we've, literally our guns have been taken, but we petitioned to have them brought back after some type of confrontation. I mean, something had to happen for law enforcement to take those guns to begin with, right? So how do we stop it? This particular mass shooting would rank as one of the deadliest in Canadian history. In 1989, a gunman killed 14 students at Polytechnique in Montreal. The country has implemented strong gun control measures in response to mass shootings, including recently broadening a ban on guns considered to be assault weapons. But as we've always said, if somebody is so troubled they want to hurt someone, they're going to find a way to get their weapons. Is this another OJ moment? A black glove recovered near the home of Nancy Guthrie? Here's the latest. The glove was found along a road about 1.5 miles from Miss Guthrie's home yesterday. According to reports, it was stuck in a small roadside shrub. Officers were seen removing the glove from the brush before placing it in a bag, and sources saying that one set of gloves is being processed from the area. Now, in the video released by the FBI, the person tampering with Mrs. Guthrie's doorbell camera, as you recall if you've seen it, appeared to be wearing dark-colored gloves, possibly black gloves. The FBI announced yesterday that it was conducting an extensive search along multiple roadways in the Catalina foothills area as part of the investigation into her disappearance. Senator Mark Kelly issued an urgent plea last night as the search continues. We're in, 11, 12 days now? The senator said, quote, they now have, I think, over 15,000 phone calls that have come in, leads, noting that some of those tips have ultimately proven to be dead ends, referencing Carlos Palazuelos, who was detained for questioning in Rio Rico the night before, Tuesday night, I guess it was, later released by the FBI. Senator Kelly said the development showed the intensity of search efforts, saying, I think the guy in Rio Rico is an example of that, but you can feel how they're desperate. He's right. Kelly also expressed concern about Ms. Guthrie's health, saying she's elderly, she has health problems. He said, Gabby and I live there in Tucson. We live pretty close, probably about 5 miles away, and we're praying for Savannah's mom, for Nancy Guthrie. Ms. Guthrie's friends, neighbors have begun placing yellow ribbons and flowers along the curb outside of her home in a show of support and in a show of unity that they want their neighbor returned safely. The Catalina Foothills Association organized the effort to stand with the Guthrie family in wake of her disappearance. Leaders at the housing development said the flowers and ribbons are meant to be a symbol of hope and pray that she returns. The CFA suggested people may also want to tie a yellow ribbon in front of their homes to demonstrate that they stand with the Guthries. The old yellow ribbon till they come home. We continue to watch this story. What a sad, sad story it is. I really thought yesterday that we were going to have maybe a major announcement because of the video and people starting to call in saying they know the identity of the guy. And, all the pundits on, if you watched any of it, they were all just very confident. We're going to see something happen probably in the next 24 hours. And now it's kind of like we're back to ground zero. I'm sure the law enforcement authorities are holding information back. They may even have more video. It's interesting that according to some tech folks, that particular doorbell has the ability to continue recording up to an hour, even after it's been ripped off of the door, and potentially is sending that to the cloud. So they very well could have video of this guy literally taking Miss Guthrie out of her home, and they just haven't released it. And don't you find it interesting that all the media folks, and look, I understand, I'm in the media, but how they, when can we expect it? When will they make it public? They have no obligation to make this public if it's part of their investigation. Law enforcement gives us what they want us to have, gives us information that may help them solve the case. Nothing beyond that. And they have no obligation to. It's not like this is like a freedom of information request where they have to make it public. Not if it's part of an investigation like this. So we'll see. You know, all we can do is to continue to pray for the safe return of this poor woman. In other news, in Washington, the House of Representatives passed legislation aimed at reversing President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada after several Republicans joined Democrats for a rare rebuke of our commander-in-chief. Here's what we have. Democrats successfully got a vote on a measure to reverse President Trump's national emergency at the northern border using a mechanism for forcing votes over the objections of House majority leadership. It's called a privilege resolution. This gets back to what I was saying a minute ago about why these midterm elections are so important. Why we have to give the Republican majority some more votes. Now, the 6 Republicans who voted in favor of the measure are Representatives Dan Newhouse, Kevin Kiley, Don Bacon, Jeff Hurd, and Brian Fitzpatrick. One Democrat, Jared Golden, voted with majority Republicans on the matter. It passed 219 to 211. As the vote was on the verge of succeeding, President Trump issued a warning to Republicans who defied him. He posted on Truth Social, any Republican in the House or the Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time, and that includes primaries. Now, the problem with that is it's almost too late. It's almost too late for the president to go out and recruit candidates to run. We're already in primary season. I mean, in some states, filing's already occurred. In South Carolina, filing occurs next month. Our primary is June. There's some primaries as early as May. So that process has already started. And to field a candidate to oppose a U.S. House member, you got to have somebody who has the financial ability to do it. And it's hard enough recruiting someone when you've got months and months leading up to it. But when you got to do it in a matter of weeks, it's just tough. So I said all that to say, I don't know how effective it is for the president to threaten primaries at this point. Trump signed an executive order in February of last year enacting an additional 25% tariff on most goods from Canada and Mexico. Energy from Canada was subject to an additional 15% tariff. Now, at the time, the White House said it was punishment for those countries' unwillingness to do more to stop the flow of illegal immigrants and illicit drugs. Opponents of President Trump's tariff strategy have criticized his moves against Canada in particular, arguing it was unjustly harming one of the U.S.'s closest allies and trading partners to the detriment of Americans themselves. And Gregory Meeks, a Democrat from New York, was quoted as saying, in the last year, tariffs have cost American families nearly $1,700 each, and that cost is expected to increase in 2026. Went on to say, Canada is our friend. Canada is our ally. Canadians have fought alongside of Americans, whether it was in the World War II or the war in Afghanistan, where 165 Canadians gave their lives after our country was attacked. There's no national emergency. There's no national security threat underpinning these threats. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Brian Mast argued the text of the resolution itself would end a national emergency related to fentanyl. He said, the gentleman over here, 5,000 people per year die in his state alone from fentanyl. So if he wants to beg the question of who's going to pay the price of him trying to end an emergency, that actually for the first time has Canada dealing with fentanyl because of the pressure being put on them. Who's going to pay the price, he asked. It's going to have to be 5,000 more of his state's residents. That's who's going to pay the price. And he makes a valid point, because we can't let our guard down when it comes to fentanyl being brought into our country, whether it's the southern border or the northern border. The resolution was filed by Democrats several months ago, actually, but it was put on hold by an active measure by House GOP leaders that blocked the House from reversing the president's emergency declarations. The president has used emergency declaration to bypass Congress on the subject of tariffs. This is a move that has drawn mixed reviews from Capitol Hill. He's been criticized by some Republicans and, of course, by many Democrats. But that measure, that particular measure, expired last month. And House GOP leaders, their bid to extend it through July the 31st crashed and burned Tuesday night when 3 Republicans joined Democrats to oppose it. So here we go again with one of our own, or several of our own actually, turning on the president, and it could cost a lot of American lives. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. All right, heads up. You heard it here first. I'm giving you a warning. You may want to get out of Dodge. Joe Biden is coming. Former President Joe Biden, we're told, will be stopping in Columbia, South Carolina, later this month for a fundraiser to mark the 6th anniversary of the South Carolina victory that propelled him to the White House. A victory that we all regret, don't we? This is notoriety of South Carolina that we just really don't want to be reminded of. Tickets to the South Carolina Democrat Party's event, it's February 27th, are costing $125 each. The website gives an option of paying more if you'd like. That's a minimum. The reception is 2 days shy of the actual anniversary. The Democrat Party chairwoman, Cristal Spain, said it's about honoring President Biden while also doing the very practical work of preparing for what's next. Profits will support candidate recruitment, party infrastructure, voter engagement, and other things to try to get the Democrats in South Carolina prepared to win some elections. The state party executive director, Jay Parmley, told the South Carolina Daily Gazette that President Biden will be speaking, and he doubts it will be brief. U.S. Representative Jim Clyburn, of course, is scheduled to attend. Jim Clyburn gets all the credit. Jim Clyburn is proud of the fact that he brought Joe Biden to South Carolina, delivered a victory for him that pretty much ended the Democrat primary that year. And we've all paid a huge price for it since. The party's invite specifies that to pay the ticket price, you have to be, listen to this. I hadn't noticed this before. Just read this. You have to be a U.S. citizen or green card holder, not a federal contractor, and at least 18 years old. And it has in fine print, federal law prohibits campaign donations from a foreign national made in connection with any federal, state, or local election. Now, let's go back to this. You have to be a U.S. citizen or green card holder. Are they going to ask for proof? Are they going to be asking for IDs at a Democrat fundraiser with Joe Biden? He spent the last day of his term, you may recall, in South Carolina. January 19th, 2025, he spoke at the International African American Museum in downtown Charleston and the Royal Missionary Baptist Church in North Charleston. He ended up where it all started for Joe Biden. Look, Joe Biden loves South Carolina because it gave him something that he had wanted his entire life. And I'll have to say, and I've told this story before, and I'll tell you again for those who maybe haven't heard it. The first time, actually the only time, that I've met Joe Biden was in Charleston, South Carolina. I was president of Southeastern Crime Stoppers. We were having our annual conference on the Yorktown aircraft carrier there in the Bay. And we had a Democrat sheriff who volunteered to get then U.S. Senator Joe Biden to come be our speaker. Now, Joe Biden had the reputation of being a pro-law enforcement senator. So, and look, Crime Stoppers, law enforcement is nonpartisan anyway. So I spent the evening with Joe Biden. We sat side by side at the head table because I was president. I introduced him at this awards banquet. And Joe Biden was a gentleman. He was entertaining. Now, again, this was years ago. This was a younger Joe Biden, just like it was a younger Joey Hudson. But we had a nice evening. And, you know, we talked about he had served with Strom Thurmond. And I, you know, in college, I interned for Strom Thurmond. I worked on his campaign. And we shared Strom Thurmond stories. But he was very engaging. He's very personable. And he made you feel like he was interested in what you were doing. And he was very much supportive of Crime Stoppers. All right, so that's my Joe Biden story. But the point is, Joe Biden has been to South Carolina many, many times, both as a U.S. Senator, as a presidential candidate, and as president. In his address to one of South Carolina's largest black churches, this was a few years back, he thanked the state's Democrat voters for paving the way for him to win the 2020 election. He said, I would not be standing here, and that's not hyperbole, at this pulpit were it not for Jim Clyburn. And he recognizes that. And he rewarded Jim Clyburn many, many times during those 4 disastrous years that he was in the White House. The former president has described Congressman Clyburn, who's South Carolina's only Democrat at Capitol Hill, as his best friend. In May of 2024, Biden awarded Mr. Clyburn the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It was Clyburn's endorsement, of course, ahead of the state's first in the South presidential primary, February 29, 2020. You know, that same year, the Democrats, you may recall, had a Democrat debate that was televised by one of the networks in Charleston. Mike Gallagher was there. We were there doing the Gallagher show and saw the whole ordeal. At that time, South Carolina had a 7-way race. Biden trounced the competition unexpectedly with a 29 percentage point lead over the second-place finisher, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, that's something, isn't it? That's how far the Democrats have come. Bernie Sanders was a second-place finisher here in South Carolina. And by the way, South Carolina's presidential primary was moved to first in the nation status in 2024, both as a thank you from Joe Biden and to show black voters that they're a priority. Though New Hampshire leapfrogged the Palmetto State without the National Democrats' blessing, and it really created quite the turmoil. Now, the nominating calendar is expected to change again for 2028. South Carolina is among the 5 states competing to be first in the process. Now, again, this is Democrats. Republicans, we are first in the South. We already know that. The others are Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and North Carolina, which is considered a swing state. South Carolina wants to at least hold on to its priority first in the South status. We'll see if the Democrats do. Again, Republicans, we know we will be. Now, the irony with this is, as you'll recall, Joe Biden has lost South Carolina in the general election miserably every single time. Because remember, President Trump, even in 2020, when Biden supposedly won, President Trump beat him in South Carolina by 12 percentage points. In November 2024, President Trump won by 18 points over Vice President Kamala Harris. So the Palmetto State is not very kind to Democrats in the general election.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.